Ladies and gentlemen, recently on this YouTube channel, I have been covering games from all sorts of levels. Obviously, there is Guess the Elo, and obviously there is the top level of chess. Players like Magnus Carlsen, Jan Nepomniachtchi, Hikaru Nakamura, Anish Giri, and so on and so forth. This video and this game today was sent to me by Reddit user Fleeceleiban. I think that's how you say it. Yep, that sounds pretty accurate. And I really don't have much else to say about this game, other than the fact that you should never resign. Let's take a look at it. This game was an immortal game, and it was upvoted heavily on the subreddit Anarchy Chess, which means that it's obviously going to be premium content. I will not tell you who is who, we will just enjoy. E4. Sounds good. E5, so far so good. Knight f3, knight c6, and white plays bishop to c4. Now, for all the jokes and craziness about this game, I still will teach you something. Black plays the move h6. So h6 is actually, it's not a super bad move. It's used to prevent knight f6, knight g5 stuff. Like people prevent the knight from, or a bishop coming to g5. A lot of people play this early h6 move. You have two options. First of all, against e4, you don't have to play e5 if you're so afraid of this. You can play many other defenses. And number two, you can learn how to deal with the fried liver, like with the Traxler or the main line of the fried liver. But okay, h6, and this is a little slow because now white's best move is to attack the center right away, because in general, if you play principled chess and your opponent doesn't fight for the center even for one move, you should try to dominate the center of the board. Okay, we have castles, and the players just develop very normally. Now we have basically total symmetry if white plays h3 and black castles, but white plays knight a4. That's actually a pretty interesting move. You can chase down your opponent's bishop. It doesn't really have anywhere to go. Now, here, black plays a very, very bad move. It's not like a losing move, but you are not improving your position. You're not castling, you're not finishing your development, and you're also not trying to get this bishop taken in an advantageous way. Getting the bishop taken like this is actually good because you open up your rook. Getting the bishop taken there is not great because of this. And black's move knight d4 is a total waste of time because you're not fully set. You're trying to throw punches, but like you're not, you're doing some stupid stuff like this, right? So you're not in fighting stance. So this allows knight takes c5, dc5, knight e5. Okay, now white is just a pawn up and has the two bishops and is borderline completely winning. Like the engine here already gives something crazy like +3, which is why rather than fighting with only 3 pieces that you've got out, castle your king, finish your development, or get your bishop taken in an advantageous way, at least opening up your rook. Cool. But black plays knight d4 and loses a pawn and castles. Okay, white plays bishop e3. I love what white is doing here. Queen e7, and now bishop takes d4, pawn takes d4, and here white has a winning move. The winning move, it's kind of tricky to see because obviously the queen is attacking the knight. This move, knight f7, is just no good because black would take, and this is just not, even though white gets 6 points, pawn and rook, and black gets 6 points, bishop knight, it's one of those rare cases where 6 is not equal to 6. Mind-blowing. Welcome to Gotham Chess, not recaps, I guess, just videos, but so 6 is not equal to 6 because the knight and the bishop are just better. But the move here is actually very interesting. It has to do with the fact that this pawn is not actually guarding anything because it's pinned. Knight g6 is a beautiful little move, and you win at least the rook for the knight, and you're completely winning. But white chooses, rather than moving the knight to g6 with this nice tactical pattern, misses it and plays the move f4. Now black should defend against knight g6, or, at least try to trade off that bishop. Maybe you cannot take with the pawn because, of course, knight g6 anyway, so you would have to go here. f5 is not possible because the knight is hanging. You should finish your development. And while black does finish their development, unfortunately, black does it at the cost of a full bishop. Black forgets that knights go backwards, which I suppose for 1200s is a relatively common symptom of the game. And now you take, and, well, white is completely winning. So how do you play a position like this where you are completely winning? You need to, again, mitigate the danger, always be on the lookout for what they can take in one move and targets, and probably just the general game plan, like how they're going to attack you next now that they're winning. Even though white is only up 4 points of material, which is bishop and pawn, it's probably closer to +10 because it's very difficult to prevent just a straight up attack. Like if white just plays f5, e5, f6, brings the rooks, and just attacks the king, no one can get in the way of this bishop. But okay, black plays c6 and goes for b5. You see, white is already just playing completely incorrectly. I don't know what c3 does. It's not a mistake, but the most optimal way here is to finish off the game by mowing the pawns down the middle and attacking the king well, I accidentally clicked that square, but that's not even a bad move. So b5, this is not really what you're supposed to be doing if you're playing with white, because now black can take and give a check. Excellent. You see, you've given your opponent some hope, and there you go. Black has just won a pawn. Still, the position is probably something like +10, because again, f5, e5, even a move like rook c1 to try to go here is very good. And if queen f6, e5, just attack, attack, attack with your pawns and your rooks. Okay, but queen e2. White is playing defensively, black goes here, and now white plays a move which, when I saw this game before I was recording, almost made me throw up. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, so I'm gonna kind of wince. Okay, bishop c2 it's not a blunder, and it does serve the purpose of defending this pawn, but it is one of the ugliest moves I've ever seen in my life. Totally unnecessary. Rook b1, and now rook c1. You see, white has won the bishop, but from this position was completely unaware of what was next. What's next is you need to attack. You need to come up with a tangible plan. Instead, white just sort of started shuffling pieces around, lost the pawn, and then started putting the rooks behind the bishop. That's not really the way the game is supposed to work, which now starts giving black hope. White plays f5. The problem with playing this move now, which would have been good a couple moves ago, your queen is gone, your rook is gone. You moved your pieces away from the attack, and then you still tried to send a soldier in with no backup, right? And not to mention, what is this bishop doing? What is this? So of course, white plays this. That's good. I like that move. But see, now black says, oh, I'm off this diagonal. We're not doing this again. Nope. Now there is rook c5. There it is. Now g6. Black's idea here is to, and that's actually why black got this out of the way, is to meet this move with some back rank threats. That's actually really creative. So if you back this up, hidden in all these positions is the fact that the king has no fort. See, the black king has a little fort. King has no fort. So in the future, if you sack your queen down there, you might get a back rank mate. So this is actually a very creative idea. Just to give you an example, like the move, I don't know, queen c2, just loses to queen f1, rook f1, rook f1. It's always good to find these little shots of counterplay to save you in potentially losing situation. Okay, so rook c1. Now black plays h5, and black cannot triple stack, sadly, because you would just lose the rook. Again, just an example of how powerful that bishop is. h5, and I like what white does here. What I really would like white to do, and anybody who has this position, like a position like this, make sure your king has a getaway. Just do it so you never get mated. Just do it. Just do it. Chat. It's not up for debate. It's like, you know, when I was a kid, my parents wouldn't let me get any cereal with more than 10 grams of sugar. So it's not up for debate. I don't care if it's 11. 11's more than 10. Okay? So no. Play h3. And now white plays rook c8. I like this move a lot. Trying to trade the rook. Just good move. Just very good move. Get some of your opponent's pieces off. Easy. And now rook f1. Now that's an annoying move. That's a problem. Because if rook f1, queen f1, black loses all hope of counterplay, and if white just protects the back rank, this is a very easily winning position. You bring the queen all the way in, not there, you'd lose it. But here, with the bishop, it's bad news. So instead, black decides that black doesn't want to make a trade, so black goes here. What's the problem with that move? Kapow. Oops. So now you are down a full rook and one pawn. Obviously, at this point, you can scroll with your mouse over to the Resign button and click it. But that is why the video is called what it's called. d4. Now, how do you possibly save a position like this? Number one, play for time. Number two, bribe your opponent. Number three, play for time. Number four, just shuffle your pieces back and forth and hope somebody blunders something. Or like, you know, do some distant move. Like maybe your opponent will forget that like the rooks are the queen on the diagonal or something. But black tries to do their best, okay? Black pushes down. Queen h5, the game is over. Queen h5, here it's checkmate in 3. It's check, king g7, and rook check, and it's mate. Just very clean mate. But because white played queen h5, now white takes on g5. Now, by the way, can I just tell you something? Like, let's say this was the position. This would have been a back rank blunder. So, like I said, it's never too late. This is why you always need to make that fort, right? So, queen g5. Queen takes e4. Now, again, it's mate. It's mate in 2, it's mate in 3, it's probably mate in 4, it's probably mate in 5, it's probably mate in 6, it's mate in infinite number of moves, except for 1. It's not mate in 1. It's mate in 2 like this. There's a little box here, queen h6 and rook f8. The game is over, boom, chop, chop, chop. Instead, we get this one, so now it's mate in 3. In this position, there is a mate by just going back with the rook, and then queen g7. You're spoiled for choice. And then you're also, you also have mate in 3 like this, like this, like this. It's ladder mate. You probably have others. And of course, you also just can mate in 1. Okay, but rook f8, king h7, and here white decides to walk the king up. Now, okay, that's still fine. You still have mate in rook f8, king h5, queen f7, and then you can walk the king up and mate like this. And ladder on h6 or whatever, but instead this. Now the king moves up, check, here, and white just says, you know what, I can't figure out how to do this, I'm gonna trade queens. Very convincing strategy. Now black is at their wit's end, and white decides to push the pawn. Now, because black is also trying to push pawns, white just freaks out here. If you just do very simple counting, you can even take, you don't have to. It's not, you're not there. You just go back. You also mate in a couple moves. You can also, right? But now white freaks out and goes, oh my god, black is also pushing, so hold on, I'm gonna push, but now I'm gonna go win the pawns. Black says, well, there goes the rest of my counterplay. I will stubbornly push my A pawn to its conclude. Oh, doesn't want my B pawn. So h3. Now, any sensible human being here just takes because it's check, but white was very stubborn and decided, no, I will not take your pawns. I will leave these goofy things over here. You can only push your B pawn and your king. And black says, I'm still not going to resign. I'm going to make you checkmate me. And white decided to take the B pawn and the A pawn out of spite. And here, white's spite ran out because they were 2 moves away from winning the H pawn, or 3 moves if they decided to go rook a4, rook h4, rook h3, or multiple moves, like maybe 5 moves. They could have walked the rook slowly on every single file to flex on you because you can't even defend the pawn, and then won it. Instead, what white decided to do is, okay, I'm done rubbing it in. I'm going to make a queen. I'm going to bring the queen all the way down, and here, obviously, I am going to deliver checkmate in 1 move for black. Yeah.